Hey, welcome. So today we're going to tackle a question that seems super simple, but the answer might just change how you think about pretty much everything. We're asking, how many senses do you really have? Okay, so let me just ask you straight up. How many senses do we have? Seriously, think about it. If I stopped you and asked you that, what's the first number that pops into your head? For most of us, there's an answer we learned way back in grade school.
And that number is 5, right? Sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. It's this perfect, tidy little list we have to thank the philosopher Aristotle for from over 2,000 years ago. But what if I told you that list isn't just incomplete? It's not even close.
Yep, that's right. We're going way beyond the famous 5. Because while they're definitely the stars of the show, it turns out they're just the opening act in this huge, amazing theater of human perception.
I mean, just think about your own experience for a second. When you feel that biting cold on a winter morning, is that just touch? Or what about when you get dizzy after spinning in a circle? Which of the 5 senses is that? And that sharp, specific feeling of a paper cut? Where exactly does pain fit into the big 5? See? They just don't cover it all.
The truth is, the real number is so much bigger. Modern neuroscience has totally flipped the script on this one. Now, depending on who you ask and how you categorize them, scientists argue we have somewhere in the ballpark of 22 to 33 different senses. A little different than 5, huh?
So how in the world does this all work? Well, it all comes down to these tiny little things called sensory receptors. They're basically specialized nerve cells. Each type is perfectly tuned to a specific job. You've got mechanoreceptors for pressure, thermoreceptors for heat and cold, nociceptors for pain, you get the idea? These are the real building blocks for all our senses, the ones we know and all the ones we never really talk about.
Okay, so keeping those building blocks in mind, let's dive into our next part. Because get this, some of our most critical senses have absolutely nothing to do with the outside world. They're all about what's happening inside the incredible universe of your own body.
So first up is something called interoception. This is basically your brain's ability to eavesdrop on your internal organs. It's the sense that lets you know your heart is pounding, or you're getting hungry, or you need to take a breath. It's this silent, non-stop conversation that keeps your whole system in balance.
Okay, and then you've got proprioception. You know what? Try this right now. Close your eyes and try to touch your finger to the tip of your nose. You can do it, right? But how? It's not sight or touch or hearing. That's proprioception. It's your brain's amazing internal 3D map of where all your limbs are in space. Without it, you couldn't even walk without staring at your feet.
And remember feeling dizzy? Well, that's the job of equilibrioception, your sense of balance. And it's all thanks to this incredible little gyroscope system in your inner ear, with these fluid-filled canals that are constantly telling your brain which way is up.
And this one might blow your mind a little. What about time itself? Yep, a lot of neuroscientists argue we have a sense for that too, called chronoception. And you know how older people always say, time flies? Well, research suggests our internal clock actually slows down as we age, which creates the illusion that time outside of us is speeding up. Wild, right? So all these feelings, your heart racing, feeling hungry or dizzy, or that sense that time is just dragging on, those aren't just random thoughts. That's you using these hidden inner senses. It's literally the language your body uses to communicate with your brain every single second. Okay. This is where things get really interesting, because it turns out our senses don't just record the world like a video camera. Nope, your brain is more like a movie director, actively constructing your reality by mixing and mashing all this data together. So it's super important to get the difference between sensation and perception. Sensation is just the raw data. It's light hitting your eyes or sound waves hitting your eardrums. But perception, that's what your brain does with all that raw data. It's the rich, meaningful, and totally subjective story it creates for you to experience. And your brain is an absolute master at mixing these senses. As this quote says, this isn't the exception, it's the rule. Your senses aren't supposed to work in isolation. They're constantly chatting with each other, influencing each other. That's not a bug, it's the entire feature of the system. You've definitely experienced this. Think about the ventriloquist effect. Logically, you know the sound is coming from the person, not the puppet. But because you see the puppet's mouth moving, your brain just says, nope, the sound is coming from over there. Your sense of sight is literally editing what your sense of hearing tells you. Or, here's another one. Ever wondered why so many people drink tomato juice on airplanes? It's not random. That loud engine drone actually makes it harder for you to taste sweet and salty things. But you know what it doesn't really affect? That savory umami flavor, which tomatoes have a ton of. So again, your hearing is directly changing how you taste.
And this isn't just a clever illusion. We can actually watch this happening in the brain. Brain scans like these show us that the old idea of separate brain areas for each sense is just wrong. It's a massive, tangled, interconnected network. The part of your brain for vision lights up when you hear things, and the hearing part reacts to things you see. It's a total team effort.
So you might be thinking, okay, this is pretty cool, but so what? Why does this actually matter? Well, it matters a lot, because understanding this has huge implications for everything from our health to the technology we build.
For starters, take mental health. We now know that being out of tune with your interoception, your internal senses, is a huge factor in things like anxiety and panic disorders. Your brain misreads a fast heartbeat as a sign of danger, and boom, a panic attack. And on the physical side, a weakening sense of smell is now known to be one of the earliest signs of diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
But here's the hopeful part. This knowledge gives us new tools. For instance, there are now treatments called olfactory enrichment, which is basically physical therapy for your nose, where regularly smelling different scents has been shown to boost cognitive function and memory in older adults. We can literally use our senses to help heal our brains.
This is also a complete game changer for technology. Because we know the brain is so good at mixing and matching senses, engineers are creating incredible devices that let one sense take over for another. There are systems that let people who are blind see by feeling patterns of vibrations on their tongue or their back. Touch is literally substituting for sight. It's incredible.
You know, it's been a really long journey to get here. We've gone from these beautiful but pretty simple old anatomical drawings to our current view, seeing the senses as this deeply complex, dynamic, and interconnected network that is constantly building our world from the inside out.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. If your entire reality isn't just something you receive, but something your brain actively builds every single moment using data from dozens of senses, just imagine what else you could perceive. What new worlds could open up if you just learned to listen a little differently to everything happening both outside and inside of you. Thanks so much for tuning in.